The Seminoles need to get to the quarterback in 2025 after a letdown season of Florida State starters at the defensive end room with Pat Payton and Marvin Jones Jr., former Georgia transfer. Things didn't work out really that well. It wasn't a pretty product on the defensive side of the ball getting back there. Things started to click, yes, in the latter half of the season, but just overall, you expected more from your veteran guy with Pat Payton. And then, too, with Marvin Jones Jr., we saw a lot of practice highlights, and there was a lot of chatter there, but it never reflected on Saturdays. So with that, Florida State, Tony White, Florida State's new defensive coordinator, and Terrence Knighton, Florida State's new defensive line coach, they're looking in the transfer portal to bring in some guys that can get after the QB and bring some pressure. This time, we're going to talk about an Oregon transfer defensive end and Jaeden Moore. He played in 13 games for Oregon. He had 6 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, half a sack, 16 pressures, and 14 quarterback hurries. He had in total 104 defensive snaps, 62.7 overall PFF grade. So now Florida State, I should have mentioned this before, but Florida State just in the interest here. There hasn't been a visit timed yet, as we know, as filming this on Monday morning. But Florida State does have interest here in the Oregon defensive end, a California native with 3 years of eligibility remaining. I think I see all the comments right now. Florida State fans, they want to have guys that come with production. If you go back to the 2024 class and the transfer portal, they picked up some guys, definitely, and a handful of those Alabama guys that didn't see a whole ton of playing time, didn't have a lot of production and their stat sheets. And they want some guys that can come in and can play a pivotal role, because expected to do that with the attrition to Florida State's roster. I don't blame FSU fans. And this time with this player right here, not really going to fit that for you at the moment. But he does have he has a good motor, definitely brings some high pressure. But the one weakness of his is his tackling efficiency at a 20% rate of missed tackles here. So 6'4", 245 pounds. Yes, coming from Oregon there. And Dan Lanning, they're having an incredible season there with the Ducks. But Florida State trying to also build up in this defensive end room. They've done a lot. So in the transfer portal alone, they brought in a few guys. James Williams, which I think was a great pickup for Florida State, just fits Tony White's defense coming from Nebraska. He's a really, really good quarterback pass rusher that can fit that 3-3-5 well. And then Deontay McCray coming from Western Kentucky as well, a guy that has some stats for sure, but is expected to be developed. And that's something that is why he picked to go play for Florida State and the Seminoles. But for Jaeden Moore, he's not a guy that is going to come in and just completely take over a starting role. He's a guy that you would expect to hopefully be developed. We'll just see too. Florida State is just showing interest in them per 247 Sports and the Noles 247 team over there. Florida State did bring in a couple of defensive ends as well in their last class. Jesse Harold, who's a 4-star, Tylon Lee, grabbing him away from Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, another 4-star, and then the two brothers, the two Desir brothers, Daryl Desir and Mendrell Desir. And how quickly can Florida State reshape this defensive line? I mean, you brought back a guy like Darrell Jackson. There's another youngster that came in inside the trenches for you up the front with Kevin Wynn, who I think is really a physical, nasty, just mean defensive lineman, which I love. And I think that was a big win, not to be annoying there, but a big win for the Florida State Seminoles to bring in Kevin Wynn into this clap and keep a hold of him, because there were a lot of big Power 4 teams after him, SEC, Big Ten, just a really talented cat that's right up the middle. But, I'm interested to see where this goes here. Florida State just doing as much as they can to try to bring in some pass rushers. We'll see if there's a visit going to be lined up here for Jaeden Moore or not. But let me know down in the comments what you think. Like I said, not a lot on the stat sheet. I see the comments and everything. Florida State, I do know they need to bring in some guys that have some production at certain levels, and there will be some guys here visiting soon for Florida State. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've got tons of videos going out like this to keep you guys updated all throughout the transfer portal all throughout this offseason. Thanks for watching.